Hey everybody, it's lunchtime. I think it's lunchtime anyway. Jim usually does a lot of the stream ingestion settings and stuff. I've done it before, but it's been a while. I think I did it all right. I think I got it all set up correctly. If not, I'm sure you folks will tell me about it in the forums. I don't think I'm going to be taking lunch or Twitter questions from for lunch this week. If I plan on doing a solo lunch next week too, and if so, I will get to the Twitter questions then. And there wasn't a lot of questions because I know I had some health issues with my granddad yesterday that essentially just caused me to miss my entire workday. So I'm gonna have to. I've got a bunch of the work after this lunch to do to get all the content edited and scheduled that we're going to be spooning out over the next week. So I'm not going to be doing the video game stream I was talking about on the stream on Wednesday. So yeah, people might be interested in an update about my granddad. My granddad's almost 90. He is I often describe him as like a John Wayne type figure, because that and in all the good and bad things that the John Wayne type character has. My granddad's very tall. He's like 6'3", and he's phenomenally strong, and he has been up until the last few years of his life, and that's part of the problem we'll be talking about. And he's also got other less desirable John Wayne qualities, as you can imagine. But he has got 6 kids that I counted yesterday, and he's into the teens of grandkids, and I honestly don't know how many grandkids. And he's done a lot of things. He's built hundreds of houses with his bare hands, and he's owned a successful company. And he's the man was born in a house with no indoor plumbing, and he's lived 90 years. But he's suffered some declining health. He's had a stroke or two, and he had a pretty significant stroke in his early 70s, and he committed to like physical therapy, and made astounding progress, and went from not having control of the right side of his body period to essentially functioning at 100% grandpa. And he has been doing that, except for a couple bouts of pneumonia and sickness up until this last year, when he's been getting a succession of smaller strokes. The doctors have identified a problem with his heart valve that's keeping him from. I don't really quite understand. I'm not a doctor, but apparently your heart and your lungs, and they work together. And if there's a defect in your heart, it can cause your lungs not to properly clear themselves of fluid. And he's kind of in this spiral, and he's 89 years old, and he doesn't want to be cracked open. And that's replacing the heart valve is the only thing that's going to significantly improve his quality of life, and he doesn't want that. And the other thing that happened is, so my grandma died of cancer about 15 years ago, and a couple years after she died, my granddad met another lady who he fell in love with, and they've been sweethearts for the last 12 years or so. And she just got diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma cancer, and she's got a pretty short prognosis. And I don't know, Grandpa's just kind of given up, and he stopped. It appears that he's just stopped taking his medication. He kind of wants to die. I remember him saying this. I had a long conversation with him last September, where when the first time he got a significant bout of pneumonia, and they talked about the heart valve thing, and he said, Aaron, I use my real name. I have had a long life, and I wouldn't make any changes, but I don't want to get cut on, and I don't want to have to stay in a hospital for 6 to 8 weeks. And if I die, I die, and I'm fine with that. And that's kind of been his mantra ever since. The problem, his granddad's physical condition is deteriorated such to the point that where he can't even get up out of bed some days when he's having really bad days. But he's still a large, powerful man. I had to, it was all, my uncle, who's been living with my grandfather for the last few months, cannot get him out of bed alone. So I went over there early yesterday to help with that. My granddad had a pretty massive stroke that morning, and the fire department had to come pick him up and take him to the hospital. So right now what's happening, what I see is happening is his aunts and uncles are, my aunts and uncles, his children are pleading with him to like do something to get a quality of life so he can be with us for X amount of time. And grandpa is sticking with the I'm 89 years old, I'll be 90 like in 2 weeks. Who cares? Who cares if I die? And the telling thing is when the aunts and uncles left the room, it was just me and granddad and my wife. Because they were saying like, look, we can get you, the doctors say, okay, you don't want to be cut on, but we can switch up your medication and we can get you in some physical therapy and you can like convalesce in the same place that your girlfriend currently is in, like, because she's in a physical rehabilitation because she wants to spend the last 6 months of her life or whatever as active as she can be. And he said, he's telling me, and his speech is all slurred. It's a labor to hear him, but he's saying that like it's, they say that like, that I should just do what my girlfriend's doing, but it's harder for a man than for a woman to essentially be, he doesn't want strangers pulling his pants down and wiping his butt. He's mortified that his son and grandson were doing it yesterday, and he just doesn't want to. He doesn't want to do it anymore, and I don't blame him. But the problem is his body's not ready to die, but he doesn't want the round the clock care it's going to take. And he, as a guy who's been able bodied, his house is ill prepared. Like we don't have any of the furniture he would need to kind of lift him up and get handholds. And we're kind of in this fix where, like you do realize, like my uncle, who is the chief of the fire department, was getting really angry with him yesterday. And he's like, you do know that it's not legal for us to like take you out to the field and shoot you, Pop. Like, you either got to take the medicine and try, or, there's no real good option. So I don't know. That's where we left it. He was adamant about not staying in the hospital for longer than a day. This morning came, and after kind of fighting with the hospital staff all night long, which I'm sure was a treat for them, and they don't deserve that, but he's an almost 90-year-old guy kind of losing his mind. This morning he woke up and said, well, I guess they're going to keep me in the hospital today. And we're not clear whether some nurse talked some sense into him, like in the wee hours of the night, or he's actually just forgot that he's already been in the hospital for a night. But we're still trying to put together that kind of like physical therapy plan. The reason I'm back here in Ohio is because I thought that they would discharge him this morning. And I was going to, get a fresh, pack some clothes and go over and spend the night at granddad's house so I could help my uncle get him to and from the bathroom and stuff like that. But he stayed at a hospital, so I'm here and I'm gonna do lunch, and I'm gonna wait until I'm gonna get all the stuff I got to get done this afternoon. I'm gonna go pick up my son and probably prepare to, like, anytime he gets discharged, I'm gonna go there and spend a couple days and take a shift. My brother's a firefighter too, so he's got a 24-hour on, 48-hour off. So I'm kind of coordinating with him to see, because ironically, my brother and I are the giants of the family. My granddad's a big man. My mom is a big woman, but like all of my aunts and uncles are like 5'6", 5'7", and to pick up this 6'2", 6'3" guy that's at this point weighing about 220, 230 pounds, they just can't do it. So my brother and I are trying to put together, like, we're going to try to come up with something to where we can take care of grandpa until we have a long-term plan. Or until he dies, because, like, his also that, like, there's a bunch of weird stuff, like his blood sugar keeps crashing. And we thought it's because he wasn't taking his medicine, but he's been in the hospital for over 24 hours, and they've got him straightened out, and his blood sugar crashed down to like 30 last night. So I don't know if anyone cares about this, and I just want, and again, like I said on the thread, I'm here because I want to be, and working kind of keeps mind off essentially what is it's not a helpless situation. It's just it's something I feel personally helpless, because none of these are my decisions, and I live in Cincinnati, they're in Indianapolis, and I'm trying to help my family out however I can. But this, working and talking with you all helps out a lot. So, like, don't feel like I'm doing this out of some obligation. I have no doubt that if I canceled this lunch, that nobody would have a problem with it. But I'm here because I want to be. So I hope that takes care of, like, what's going on in A.Ron's world. Like I said in the forum post, my mom was there and she had a whole bunch. She was rolling pretty deep with Jehovah's Witness posse, and it was stressful for me. Plus, my family members don't like the witnesses either for a lot of obvious reasons. But that was stressful. But like all my aunts and uncles are very supportive of me, and I had my wife there, and you know, it's just ridiculous. Like last night when I left, everybody's sitting this U-shaped, this big U-shaped couch. All the aunts and uncles were still there and the cousins. And I went down one by one and I hugged every one of them. And my mom's in the middle. She just sat there with her arms crossed and kind of looking off in the middle distance and didn't get up. And so I didn't try to give her a hug. But it's just like shit like that. It's so fucking weird and unnatural, and it creeps out everybody, and it's uncomfortable, but it's still illegal to drag her out into a field and shoot her, as my uncle pointed out. So what are you going to do? Let's get to some topics. Like I said, that's the reason I started this. I know people weren't sure that if I was going to do lunch or not. So I feel like that the lunch threads are not as populated because there's confusion. And if so, I've got a thread from like 3 weeks ago that we didn't consider for some reason. I can't even remember. It was because of well, no, it wasn't because of Groundhog's Day. Anyway, there's a whole thread chock full of great stuff that I will go back and pillage if we run out of material for an hour or so. Let me refresh the thread, make sure the video isn't all fucked up. It looks like, oh, I see what I did. I fucked up the settings on the website. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry about this. Let me mark this on the track so I can edit it for the actual podcast. Yeah. Okay. I can fix this. Classic Rusty A.Ron mistake of putting not copying the YouTube link correctly. But I should be, like I said, I should be able to get this fixed real quick. Let me get my keyboard shuffle. Ball move. So people ask me on the stream Wednesday night, do I miss Jim? Yes, I miss Jim. It's very very hard to do all this stuff with one person, and we've specialized so much to make use of our time the best that like we always struggle when we hand off different responsibilities a little bit. Let's see, lunch with Jim and A.Ron. Here it is. Let me see. I see what I did. Good grief. That's a real rookie mistake. Okay. Update. Sorry about that, guys and gals. I forgot that I had to paste that in as code instead of the WYSIWYG editor. Anyway, so that should work now. Let us get on with the lunching. Let's get on to lunching. Let's see. Gwunot from California says, I recently explored the world of ASMR and found it to be a great de-stressor. ASMR is autonomous sensory meridian response. And I've been watching different YouTube videos. Basically, there are certain triggering sounds or visuals that cause a tingling sensation in people. Not everyone has the same trigger. Big trigger for me is people typing on a keyboard. So ASMR, as I understand it, is that kind of that pleasant tingling you get on the back of your neck if someone is giving you a shoulder rub, or someone is cutting your hair, or someone is washing your hair, or you hear certain soothing sounds, or you're in a particular comfort. It's like a pleasurable tingling in the back of your neck, and I'm susceptible to it. And the triggers for me is like, when someone's like petting, like running their fingers through my hair, or cutting my hair, or whispering in my ears, big stuff. Yeah, so I'm aware of that. I haven't really gotten into it now since I started, because it just feels weird to deliberately trigger that through audio stimulus. And there's like ASMR artists that like do things like tap things and tear pieces of paper and whisper real soft, and they have their stereo microphone so they can switch from one side of you to the other. And And Twitch, that's big, and a lot of times it's combined with a very attractive lady, and it kind of feels sexual, which I'm not, I'm not too sure about, like a live oral sex show. But if you're into that kind of thing, it seems like it is pretty relaxing. And I am into that kind of thing. I don't know. I haven't gotten into like provoking it artificially. Let's see. Rusty Wright. Oh, I've been listening to old lunches to get me through the workday and came upon the A.Ron 80-foot cliff dive mention on the 5/26/17 lunch. It's okay to tell. I'd love to get the story. Like, was this a cliff other people were jumping off? How into cliff diving were you? Did you land wrong and hit bottom? How'd you break your tailbone and almost die? Okay, I will tell the entire story. So this was quite a while ago when I was probably 25-ish. And my ex-wife and I were going down to Lake Cumberland with my brother-in-law, who had just gotten a new boat. He'd gotten like an 18-foot Rinker, one of those mid-range family cuddy cabin cruiser boats with like a 35 horsepower motor, and so we camped there, and then we had his boat, and we take his boat out. And what my brother-in-law liked to do is go to these party coves, which were, if you know Lake Cumberland is this big, like, I don't know if it's limestone, but it's a rocky lake, and it's very, very clear water because it doesn't, the water doesn't get stirred up and muddy. And it has like, a fractal kind of shorescape to where you can go back off the main branches of the lake and go further and further and further until you can. What I like to do is find a cove where there's nobody at and like rope off there for a weekend. You're essentially camping on the water in this cove. What Kenny liked to do is find one where like 100 people are back there, and everybody's anchored, and there's people playing loud music, and there's drinks and all that kind of stuff. So this particular cove had these really nice cliffs, and there was like 20-foot cliffs, 30-foot cliffs, 40-foot cliffs, and then there's one that's about twice as tall. Is like, you had to take this very narrow goat path through the top. And like maybe, so everybody's jumping off the lower cliffs, but maybe once every 15, 30 minutes, someone to jump off the high cliffs. And I've always been interested in jumping off big, tall things in the water. There was an abandoned stone quarry south of the hometown that I grew up in that my friends and I would drive back, and we had to walk like a mile down this equally abandoned railroad tracks across this bridge. I mean, it's very Stand By Me, but we'd jump, and that cliff was about 40 foot. So I'd never jumped off anything that tall, and I thought it'd be super cool. And what I had observed throughout the day is that people get to the top, and they'd spend a lot of time looking down, and they'd get chickened out. And I thought it'd be badass to just go up there and not look down and just step off. And do like some jaunty, like, hey fellas, wave as I was doing, like just super casual, like it's no big deal. Because like that's 70 to 80 foot is not, I wouldn't think would be lethal. And I was immortal because I was only 24 and 25. So I went to the top of this cliff, and I took this big hike. And I saw these like 4 or 5 guys that were in anywhere between like 16 and 30 staring over the thing. And I will say that if you've ever jumped off something very high, there's this I don't know what the phenomenon is, but whatever you're standing on looks like 2 to 3 times higher than what it really is. I used to think it was because like if you're standing on a high dive and it's 20 feet off the water and I'm 6 foot tall, like I literally am 6 foot higher than it is. But like that doesn't scale when you're talking about these distances, but it's still like, holy shit, it looks so fucking far from the top. And I get to the top, and that was my plan. So I was like, hey fellas, and I was just intended to walk straight off the cliff. And as I looked down, and I'd already started to kind of commit to the fall, I noticed that there's like a outcrop 10 foot down that juts out like 3 foot, and I was going to hit that thing. So at the last second, when I looked down, and I had two reactions. One was, holy shit, look how fucking high this is. And oh my God, you've semi-committed to this course of action that's going to slam you against this rock. So I was on my left foot, and with all my might, I pushed off of that left foot as I was still, my momentum carrying me over. And the result was I jumped out, and I was way over rotated to like, I was set to do a belly bust on this thing. So I instantly pulled in my feet, so I'm in like a seated position, and started pinwheeling my arms backwards. And I had gotten to like an upright position, and I just started to come out of that tuck, and I essentially hit the water in a fully seated position. And I didn't have a life vest on because that, because I was stupid. And I immediately, like, if you've ever like hit something really hard or had a really hard shakeup like that, been in a motorcycle wreck, you might be familiar with the idea of like your vision kind of like starting to close in, like it literally gets dark and it kind of pinpricks. And it was doing that underwater, and I was looking at my own feet because I was just jackknifed like 25 feet underneath the water. And like my vision started closing in, and I remember thinking like, get it together, son, or you're gonna fucking die for something colossally stupid. So I tried to calm myself and because I can hold my breath for like a minute, and I knew I was not in danger of drowning. So I just started. First of all, I watched to see which way, because I wasn't even sure which way the surface was. I watched the bubbles to see, so I was like, okay, because I've heard of that, like, people swimming down instead of up and getting fucked up that way. So I swam up and I got my breath, and then I just realized that, like, my whole backside down to my feet was fucking numb. And wasn't like, seemed like it was like, it's like both my legs were asleep. So I laid over my back and I started backstroking back to my brother-in-law's boat. Long story short, I either broke or bruised my tailbone, and the doctor said the treatment was the same, and if I got the x-ray it would cost $300. So all I know is my ass was super bruised. And the funny thing is that happened on like day 3 of the trip, of the 7-day trip. And I rode my motorcycle down to the lake. So I had the problem of like a 400+ mile trip on my motorcycle with a broken / bruised tailbone. And I had to essentially, for the vast majority of this the trip, stand up on my foot pegs, or like float off the foot pegs, and just like anticipate bumps, because every time I hit a bump really good without anticipating it, it would just slam into my tailbone and I'd see stars. And it was, like I said, entirely stupid. Christ Jesus, why is everybody blowing me up? It was entirely stupid, but one of those experiences that it was kind of cool in hindsight. And the thing is I don't even remember the jump so much as just like physically trying to focus on getting rotated back in the same position, because if I landed on my belly, I kind of thought I might die. And that's the other thing, is I'm also describing something that took place in a matter of seconds. And my research into the brain tells me that a lot of that stuff is just shit that my brain has made up in retrospect that makes it to make the event sense. So I'm just telling you what I remembered. So yeah, I don't know if the lesson is don't jump off really high cliffs, or if you do, look before you leap. That's probably always a good piece of advice. So yeah, let's move on. JMiddy92 from Independence. When are we getting a new Empire cast? Very soon. It's been very frustrating for me because as I said, I've got like 3 different topics I want to talk about, but for various reasons, our schedule just hasn't permitted sitting down and recording those. But I really want to get at least 2 out in March. That's my goal, and I think we can do that. Lots of people wishing me and my granddad well. Thank you for that. Let's see, Mr. X from Colorado. Hey, A.Ron, last week you were talking about Atlanta coverage, and I think you sold yourself short on your ability to provide thoughtful or insightful analysis of the show. Good TV is good TV. As far as I'm concerned, you are one of the best in the biz at being able to riff for an hour about themes, plots, characters, etc. that interest you. As long as the show is good, and it is, and you're interested in, I think you had plenty of worthwhile things to say about it. Yeah, and I'm definitely going to watch Atlanta, and I'm definitely going to talk about it. What I was trying to say is I don't know that I'm not saying it wouldn't be interesting. I'm just saying I don't know that I would feel super comfortable talking about Atlanta in depth as a weekly podcast for all the reasons I just mentioned, or I mentioned last week. The fact now, it would be what I need to do is I need to find some black dudes or black ladies podcast that does Atlanta and listen to them, find one that does it really well, and then start telling the world about them, because that's I think the perspective that's really interesting and it would be really insightful. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to seem like I can't talk about racial issues. It's just that is so specific and so pointed a topic that and Donald Glover's so fearless about attacking like politics and like black viewpoints on like social justice issues that do not pertain to race, that are kind of inherently uncomfortable and awkward, but he's so damn talented, and I'm not Donald Glover. So like if I go there and start having opinions on it, it's not that I'm afraid I'll be wrong, it's that I know I'll be wrong. And I don't know what perspective he's trying to represent or what he's actually trying to do, other than just, the surface level entertainment. So yes, bald move segments on Atlanta, no bald move Atlanta in its current configuration, because like I don't know that Jim is interested in watching the show. I know he didn't watch last season, and like two white guys talking about it at depth and length into the depth it deserves. I don't know if it's a great idea. Let's see. Chinaski from Santa Cruz, is there anything you have a fear of? Dogs, spiders, snakes, heights, Tommy Lee Jones face? Yeah, I have a visceral fear of spiders. Large spiders especially, but like small spiders I'm not too afraid of, and those like little furry jumping spiders I actually think are kind of cute. But like a tarantula or a scorpion is something that not only looks menacing and alien, but is menacing and alien and can do harm to me. Like the thing would bite me and inject venom into me. That's just like very at a primal level a no-go. And I don't really want to. I mean, I'm sure I could lose my fear of that. I just don't want to. I don't care to desensitize myself to the spiders being on me. And heights, ironically, I didn't used to be afraid of heights, but I'm finding now that heights it's not that I'm afraid of them. It's just I get like this vertigo that then causes me to start feeling like I'm losing my balance, which then I'm afraid of. And same with roller coasters. I found in the last 2 or 3 years that I used to love roller coasters and can ride them over and over, like when I had a pass at Kings Island and it was in the off part of the season and like there was no line for like the Vortex or the Beast, I would just ride that son of a bitch over and over and over and over again. Now, really fast, twisty roller coasters makes my head hurt and sometimes makes me nauseous. So I've been combating that by taking like Dramamine, just as a precaution, which it seems like it helps with everything but the headache. Sometimes a really violently shaking roller coaster still give me a headache. I think that's just me getting old, because I remember my dad being the same way. He was all about roller coasters up until the time he's like, you know what, you guys, I rode to one today. You guys go have fun. So it might be even a genetic thing. I'm not really afraid of much else. Spiders and heights. Those are the two ones. Too many boogers from Colorado. Here's a mind noodler. It's a battle royale, rumble only, consisting of acting families using characters that they have played. Who would you get? Who you got? At first I was thinking the Sheen Estevez clan or something done with big action like the Wahlbergs. My money would be on the Carradine family. You got old Lou Solverson from Fargo, Bill from Kill Bill, and Jack Welcher from Breaking Bad. And I haven't even mentioned Kung Fu. Thoughts? Carradine's pretty good. It's funny because I just watched the last half of the revival season of Mystery Science Theater 3000 over the last few days, as kind of like oh, this is fun and it's a little escapist. And they have this 2-part, the Wizards of the Lost Kingdom 1 and 2. And the second Wizards of the Lost Kingdom features David Carradine in like a fairly major role. And I thought that was pretty cool. Huh. Acting families. What about the Hemsworth brothers? I don't know if they're actually any good at being badasses, but they certainly are big beefy dudes. That's a lot of quality genetics, a lot of quality a lot of quality structural advantages that you could then hammer into martial purposes. Uh, I think they could take the Carradines. I think they could take the Carradines, especially since a lot. So, and you didn't specify, like, David Carradine's dead, so he ain't no help. The other guys are super old, and the Hemsworths are in their prime. So you gotta consider that. Um, C Drive from Houston. Is Jim bringing back you something from Italy? What are you hoping to score from Italy, or what would you hope he brings back for you? Or do you not care so much about travel gifts, souvenirs from your close pals? Bing, bing, bing. I actually, and I don't know if this is because I was raised as Jehovah's Witness, but um, I find it weird sometimes the random nature of gift giving, or I actually like random gifts. Like, oh, I saw this thing and I know it would be perfect for XYZ, so I'm going to get it. The idea that, oh, I'm in a foreign country, so I need to buy XYZ to let people know that I thought of them in that foreign country seems kind of dumb. And I know that Jim, however I feel, he feels like 10 times more strongly about it. So I don't expect him to get me something. Although sometimes he surprises me. And if what would I want? What would I want from Italy? I mean, my first thing is like pasta, but like if it's a, like is pasta from Italy that's been freeze dried in a box that you could bring back, is that actually better? My second thought was like a Leaning Tower of Pisa statue, just for like it being cool on the back of my shelf here, or like a model of a Ferrari. But like that's like I said, that's the kind of dumb junk that I don't need and don't necessarily want him to maybe like. There's probably some good Italian candy. Or like, isn't there like some charcuterie stuff, like sausages and whatnot that you can only get in Italy? Like something, an experience like that. Some special Italian liqueur or food stuff would be what I would try to bring back. And I did do that, like when I went to the Bahamas. I went to a place that made rum cakes, and I got a bunch of different like sample rum cakes to bring back for people, because I really enjoyed the rum cakes and I wanted to show them off to my pals. So that's what I'm hoping, but I doubt I get anything, because Jim also loves to travel light. I mean, you heard him last week that a fucking Nintendo Switch is too bulky for him to gavort around the world with. So I don't see him bringing back a bunch of bulky stuff. I don't hate him for it by any means. Let's see. Something. Okay, this is the part where we get everyone's telling me that the video is fucked up. Desiree said, "What did Cecily and Jack think of Black Panther?" Cecily hasn't seen it yet, because as I mentioned, Black Panther was crazy sold out. And I had to come back to a later show, and that showing I could only get 2 seats together. So I took Jack, and Jack thought it was awesome. He thought it was really cool. And Cecily wants to see it really, because she's been almost spoiled by big things on several different podcasts she's listened to. So she's really like beating the drum beat. And in fact, I probably would have taken her by now, except for all this crap going on with my granddad and some other stuff that's been going on. But no, she hasn't had an opinion on it yet. I'm sure she'll like it though. Let's see. Jamal D, regarding last week's comments on covering Atlanta, you mentioned your desire to someday have a diverse set of contributors that reflect different facets of the American experience. Let me throw my hat in the ring. My friends and I will gladly provide an African-American perspective anytime you want it. I'll avoid making a shameless plug here, but I have recorded over 100 podcasts over the past 2 years, so we aren't completely clueless on the mic either, just putting it out there. Hey man, thanks. If we, like I said, when we do start trying to build out the network, that's exactly the kind of folks we want. I mean, it's not like I want to, I guess, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe I do want to deliberately build something diverse. But I'm also, but that's exactly the kind of perspectives. And also, don't be shy about putting your plug in there too. Like in the forum rules, there's something about don't be obnoxious. Like what I don't want is someone posting like say if I'm running Bald Move and I went to some other podcasters forum and I started a thread for every one of my shows. So I've got 3 or 4 or 5 threads a week. Like, I think that's obnoxious. Just saying, hey, I've got this podcast and it's relevant to this discussion. Here it is. I don't think it's obnoxious. Like, if people wanted to put their like personal projects in their fucking signature text blocks in the forum, I don't think that's obnoxious. The what's obnoxious is just like trying to use someone's platform as a venue to, like, as an explicit venue to advertise your personal project. Does that make sense? Like, when it's relevant, it's you're adding information to the discussion and expertise you have. When it's just like, hey, apropos of nothing, here's a link to my podcast, that's where, you know, it's not even that's bad of itself. It's a tragedy to commons. If everyone did it, then Bald Move would be a hollow ghost house of people advertising their podcast to each other, and, you know, I didn't want that to happen. So, Michelle from, oh wait, this is more people talking about the forums not working. Let me refresh the thread to see if I can get some more questions. Weenie Girl from Atlanta says, today is my birthday and I was hoping you could help me pick a movie to see this weekend with my free birthday ticket my local theater provides. I'm trying to decide between Annihilation, Black Panther, and Red Sparrow. For reference, I didn't get out to movies much these days as a mom to a toddler, so I try to hit the movies that won't be the same on a small screen. For its worth, my taste in movies TV run pretty close to yours. I think you have, like, with all those things said, you have to see Annihilation. I don't know whether Red Sparrow is good because I wasn't able to see it last night. I know Black Panther is really good. It's really good. But I also think it's, you know, at home in your living room good too. Where Annihilation is very good. It's very weird. If, like, I wouldn't, like, if you like 2001: A Space Odyssey, or you liked The Arrival, wasn't it The Arrival was the one about the squid aliens with their language, that traveled through time non-linearly. If you like that stuff, especially, go see Annihilation. But Annihilation is a unique movie theater experience that it's essentially an assault on your senses. And I don't know that many people have the setup to get that thing to work the way it does. If you don't like really hard science fiction, really high concept, make you think, not entirely like you have to kind of think about it outside of the movie, then maybe Black Panther, or certainly Black Panther, because it's a great superhero film. But I would say, with everything you said, Annihilation, hands down. Okay, I'm gonna switch over to the 216 thread to get some cleanups that we didn't get from there. Obama from the USA. What compliment have you always wanted but never received? You know, it occurred to me when I was down in Florida that what I've never heard from my father is that he is proud of me. And that's like a very stereotypically, you know, like, oh, woe is me kind of thing. But it's astounding to me when I was talking to these other old people and how much they couldn't stop running their mouth about their kids. And, you know, that it's just so weird that I've like, you know, I know my dad has been skeptical of almost everything I've done in my life. And he's always been afraid that I was going to fail. But, like, this Bald Move thing is something I'm super proud of. And, like, the fact that he has never listened to a single podcast kind of really bothers me. You know, especially when I did a podcast on Justified, a movie or show that I know he watched on a weekly basis. You know, I love my dad, and it's like I don't need this to feel complete, but I think it would feel good for him to be like, you know what? I wasn't sure about this thing. It didn't make sense to me. You had such a great career in IT, and it scared the shit out of me, but I gotta admire that you took the chance, and it seems to paid off, and you're doing this thing with your best friend, and you're providing for your family, and you got this awesome community. And, you know, I told him about the National Alliance to End Homelessness, and I told him about, like, he knows, I've told him about the stuff, and it's almost like, huh, okay, and we go on with the conversation. So that's the one compliment I've always wanted, but I've never received. I probably won't get one. I probably won't get it at this point. Aside from co-founding Bald Move, what's the one achievement in your life that you're most proud of? Breaking free from the cult. I had a lot of extended conversations about with my other family members about my mom's conversion and her subsequent conversion of my grandmother, and like different perspectives and stuff that I'd never really heard of, like, because I was 6 when this happened, so I wasn't sure of all the family politics and drama that ensued from that. But uh that was very hard, and that was very scary, and that was one of the most terrifying things I did in my life. And I was not sure that I was making the right choice. It was a gut level, like an almost defiant thing. Like if this means that my soul, that I'm gonna miss out on this everlasting life, or this means that I'm gonna piss off, like I don't even care. Like I can't, like if this is what God wants me to do on this kind of evidence and in this particular manner, then I don't want anything to do. I'm comfortable with meeting whatever. Yeah, doing that and then rebuilding my life. I don't often think and reflect on, but that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of. Because it made everything else possible. Doing that, if I was still in the witnesses, I would obviously not be able to do Bald Move. My son's life would be dramatically different, in a more negative way. I wouldn't have met Cecily. I wouldn't even reconnected with Jim. Like honestly, because there was a good 5 to 7 year period where we hadn't spoken because he had left the witnesses and I was still in it. So many good things have come from my life from that one very scary choice that I wasn't entirely sure about. Yeah, that's that. Let's see. Question for Jim, which I will bypass. JTK the third. Is that Jedi Knight 3? Is that the reference we're going here? I've recently just started watching Dr. Disrespect and Summit 1G on Twitch, and it amazes me how good these guys are. Not at just playing video games, but the production values they have for each session. Especially with Dr. Disrespect. The dedication is something you have to respect. Do you guys have any favorite players to watch on Twitch? How do you see the Twitch world continuing to evolve? So, Dr. Disrespect's a guy I like. I think he's entertaining. It's also been kind of fascinating seeing him come back from like his public disgrace and his familial humiliation and try to come back and bigger and better. And it was interesting to see what happened to Twitch while he was gone. For example, Ninja's taken over with Fortnite. Ninja just crested. I first started watching Ninja in December when Doc shit the bed and left his channel for like 2 months, because I was already just getting bored of PUBG and was thinking of switching to Fortnite. And Ninja was like, if you ask who's the best Fortnite player, that was like easy top 3 consensus. I started watching him, and he had like 30-some thousand Twitch viewers. And it was implied that he had recently kind of like almost doubled his channel count already just from switching from PUBG to Fortnite. He was one of the earlier switchers. And he just crested 90,000 subscriptions. Now, let me tell you what that means. That means that 90,000 people have pledged essentially a club Ninja that's $5 a month. You can go, I think there's a $15 level and a $25 level, but minimum is $5. And also, a streamer of his size is going to get at least half of that. So that means he is getting so he's making like $200,000 a month just on subscriptions. That doesn't count the donations he receives. And again, that's on the low side because people are tier 2ing and tier 3ing sub. It's what's fascinating with Ninja is trying to see if he can continue this, because Ninja's an interesting guy because he's kind of brittle. Like he gets like part of his act is he's kind of dramatic and he's kind of cringy, and he's kind of he wears his emotions close to the sleeve, but that can also cause him to be kind of a shit. Like when he gets tilted and gets snippy with his chat. Like I firmly believe that when there's bad behavior going on, you need to like kind of block and ignore rather than try to like get in a fight with the person who's being a dick in your community. Because that people that want attention, giving them the attention is bad, and I feel like he makes that mistake again and again and again. Also, when he plays with other players, sometimes he like, you know, he's kind of infamous for like getting with other top streamers and then talking to them like they're his kid brother, like, oh, you missed this or that, or oh, you should have started building here and that, and like it's very offensive to these guys who are also professional streamers. And it would be interesting to see if he can go from like this 27-year-old guy who now is going to be super rich in less than a year to a person who can do something long term. And like there's also, it's very kind of not like he's just making, he is trying to grow his Twitch channel just for the sake of growing it. He doesn't the other thing that kind of bothers me is he doesn't have any mission. He's like, I know he's done charity streams, he's raised a lot of money for charity, but like I don't know, it's like he's trying to acquisition wealth just to acquisition it, and it feels like he's made some statements about that. It comes across to me as entitled and kind of tone deaf when he's talking to people who are not making this much money to make the stream. I don't know. It's like there's a weird lack of humility or self-awareness to Ninja sometimes, which might be like, again, I can't imagine being 27 and having something like this happen to you. It would be hard to kind of get to get an easygoing perspective from that. I'm certainly glad that to the extent Bald Move is successful, it's happened much later in my life where I've had a lot of kind of humbling things that have, you know, like Ninja's attitude is, I can, like, he was talking to stream where if he wasn't streaming, he would be in Major League Soccer because, you know, he can be good at anything he sets his mind out to be. I mean, that's incredibly naive to think that, well, if I just stopped playing video games and I started working out and kicking a soccer ball more in high school, that I would have been a Major League Soccer player. You know what I'm saying? He said other things like that. As far as who I like Tim the Tatman. I like, and some of these guys I provisionally like because the other thing I've noticed with these Twitch guys, because they're all young and they're almost all monolithically white, is I've been shocked at some of the things that have come out of their mouth. And it's like not immediately obvious, but like some dude will just be like super casually racist or sexist. And I'm like, holy fuck. So when I say I like these guys, this is not I have not watched them a ton, but I like Tim the Tatman. I like Real Crafty. I like Dr. Lupo, who's also kind of blowing up. He's one of those Destiny guys that successfully transitioned to something post Destiny, and he's blowing up. Trying to think who else. I like a CDN the Third, who I think is, they actually call him C's. He's a really cool dude. I like Myth, TSM_Myth. He's probably the second best Fortnite player for my money. I'm trying to think who else. There's a bunch of smaller guys, like WTF Moses is someone I started watching 6 to 8 months ago, where he was just trying to hustle, and he's almost built it into a full-time gig, and I think that's kind of cool. And there's also a lot of weird Twitch stuff that I like. I don't know. I like going, like, cruising through the low-level IRL stuff, like when I'm just looking for 10, 15 minutes to kill, just to see what crazy shit people are getting up to. Let's see. Dr. King wants to know about a Star Trek Discovery season recap. I know we want to do that, and we have not yet, because I don't think we've I know I haven't finished the season. I've almost finished it, but I haven't quite gotten there. I suspect Jim's in the same boat, and we were kind of debating whether it was too late, but then the Red Letter Media guys did a roundup of it like this week or late last week, so I don't think it's too late. And it's right in our wheelhouse, so I'm going to lobby hard to make that happen. I know it was our intention. Sometimes our intentions don't pay off, but we'll see. Any update? Texas Sandman wants to know any update on Dogwatch 22K18. Nope. Seth and I actually haven't even talked about it since we decided not to get one last Thanksgiving. Because we always wanted to get a corgi. And then we started doing some research into the breed, and we found that the corgis do not, as a rule, cohabitate well with cats unless they're introduced together at a very young age. And since we're looking to like more of a rescue corgi than like getting one from a breeder, that we can't guarantee that I don't know. We just decided that, as we read more about the breed, maybe corgis weren't as compatible with our household as we thought. So we went. We had this kind of list where we were looking. We wanted to get a good dog breed that's as hypoallergenic as you can get, which means they don't have that eliminates a lot of short hair breeds. We want to get like more of a medium-sized dog, and we want to get a dog that's good with cats. So we had like 10 different breeds that we had earmarked as something that we can start searching for, but we just haven't done it. This weekend I'm going to start. There's one side of our fence that wouldn't hold a dog. The side with my elderly neighbor it's kind of like fell into disrepair. And I told him that I would cut all that out and cut that fence down and replace it. I also need to get that in place because I would like a fenced in backyard before I get a dog. But yeah, no, we're kind of just in between dogs right now. Let's see. Hatorian from Dagobah wants to know, we have two choices: kill Hitler before World War II, or stop the nuclear bomb from ever being created. Do you let 50 to 80 million people die but ensure the world is forever safe from nuclear war, or do you save those people and let things play out as they are? What do you choose and why? Holy shit. Holy shit. I do not think I have the wisdom to make that decision. I guess if you put a gun to my head right now, I'd say stop Hitler and stop World War II, because I know hundreds and hundreds of people died. No, millions and millions of people died, where nuclear war, in a weird way, has seemingly stabilized a lot of the world, because one of the things that led to World War I is the great powers of the world thinking they had an edge over other nations, but not being entirely sure. And ever since the doctrine of MAD, even though it's super fucking crazy and super scary and it's very perilous, it does seem like that question is no longer asked. The answer of, well, what if Russia went to war with XYZ is Armageddon. What if the United States goes to war with XYZ nuclear-caped antagonists? The answer is Armageddon. So it kind of enforces this Cold War paradigm, and I think that's preferable to what the world was doing before the atomic bomb. So again, saying full well, I'm not wise enough to answer this. I'm not a student of history enough. I haven't thought about the issue enough, but I think that I try to save those 100 million so people rather than theoretically protecting humanity from nuclear war. And it also takes off fusion power or fission power and potentially in the future fusion power. I'm sure that'd be part of the bargain, and I feel like that's going to be a big part of humanity's golden age that we still have in us if we can kind of get through the short-term period. So yeah, I'd stop Hitler. You can never go wrong stopping Hitler, I feel like. Let's see here. Fern from NYC, what video game gave you the most joy, satisfaction of completing? Boy, that's a good question, because I'm trying to think of something I finished contemporarily. I'm gonna go with the first, like, really long form, multiple sessions, multiple hours video game that I ever completed, which was Metroid. Like, before Metroid, because I played Metroid before the first Zelda. If I played Zelda, I'd probably say that. But before Metroid, games just weren't complex. Like, you had, like, shit like Pac-Man and Missile Commander and Donkey Kong and things like that, where you have a stage and it got harder and reconfigured, but that was the game. Like, Metroid was exploring this world, and you can make choices, and you had to get different weapons, and it modified your character, and you had to write things down, and you needed maps, and that was a big kind of eye-opening experience for me. So I'll go with Metroid. Why not? Vicky12, A.Ron, have you started reading All the Pieces Matter, the Inside Story of The Wire yet? No, I have not. I'm still trying to get through my stack of Christmas books. I'm almost finished with Artemis, which was the Andy Weir follow-up to The Martian about the lunar moon base. Then I've got a book by Ta-Nehisi Coates that I want to read. And then I think I want to read Alan Sepinwall's collection of stuff that he came out about the Breaking Bad the Breaking Bad show, which someone got me for Breaking Bad 101, the complete critical companion. I want to make my way through that, but that is kind of like roughly speaking next on my list, and then I'd like to get back to my Patrick O'Brien because I went away at that like book 15. I got 5 more to go. Brandon the Bard, have you ever LARPed? No, I've not, and yeah, man, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. That's super cool. I get the impulse because I kind of would like to do that SCA, Society for Creative Anachronism, where you get weapons and you do melees and stuff like that. But I don't know. I guess I've just got right now. I'd much rather go sail a boat or go camping or ride a motorcycle or ride a bike or play pitch and catch with my son than picking up another hobby. So no, I'm not interested in that. Let's see. I think that's about it, and it's getting about 2 o'clock. So, okay, this thing is like a long one. Let me just read it and see what he has to say. Gaji Gaji 530 says, I'm sending this from Uganda, Africa. Let me quickly tell you how I got here because it's related and then ask my question. At the end of last summer, I was unexpectedly hit with a divorce after only 10 months of marriage. Wow. My ex said she just made a mistake, wasn't in love anymore, and there was nothing I could do to change things. I was shocked and devastated, but handled things the best I could and tried my best to have a very quick and painless divorce. I knew, though, if I stuck around, it would be hard to heal being in the same town. I needed some space. I had a bunch of money saved, so I quit my job in October and started a 7-month adventure. I like this already. Let me take a drink because my mouth is drying out. All right. I first visited and backpacked through 19 countries in 100 days through Europe, listening to you guys on most of my train rides. That part of the trip really helped in the healing process as I ate and drank through every country while making new friends and learning about culture and history. I didn't want my trip to be completely selfish, so now I'm in Uganda and I'm volunteering for a nonprofit and teaching at their boarding school for the next 4 months. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but I know I'm helping others and will also make me a better person. Now to my question. When I return to the USA, I eventually want to fall in love again and next time have a successful marriage. You both seem to have great relationships. What I constantly hear over and over is that both of you have a lot in common and enjoy doing the same things with your significant others. When I think back upon my relationship, we didn't like doing the same things really at all, which perhaps is maybe why she got bored or felt like she didn't connect with me. She didn't like any of the shows you cover, and I love them all. What are the key components to finding a compatible person in the way that you both have that will result in future success? I mean, I think that the commonality is super underrated for me. Because like I'm sure there's the one thing I'm sure of, there's all kinds of different relationships and there's all kinds of different people, and what works for some doesn't work for others. But what's worked for me is to have those common interests are stand in for a lot of things. It stand in for common values. It stand in for common thresholds. For example, when I say thresholds, one thing that always annoyed me about some of my previous relationships is I like kind of rough and rugged adventures. I like going places where I'm not comfortable and I'm out of my comfort zone and I'm maybe physically suffering. I'm slightly too cold or I'm slightly too hot or I'm kind of hungry or I don't have maybe the right gear for this, because when it comes to like camping and boating and doing all these other outdoor activities, because that's where you have experiences, like super fun and exciting experiences and stories, and I value those things. Like I just saw a quote that's like, no one ever had a memorable story that began with, so I invited all my friends over to a dinner party and we ate and drank the finest foods and had a pleasant conversation and then they left. It's always like something that happens to you outside your comfort zone. And one of the things I really love about Cecily is she's kind of game for anything. Like I can't think of my previous relationships if any of them would be willing to go to Beaver Island with just 2 bicycles and 2 backpacks and just ride all over Hell's Half Acre over on Beaver Island and just rough it like that. And that's one of the best experiences we've had in our lives. We both say that. Similar ideas about money and family. Cecily and I very rarely fight about things, because if we do get in an argument, it's usually a factual one. It's not, I think we should do this with her, and I think we should do. It's not like a values argument. Values arguments are almost unsolvable. You have to either nudge someone's perception of the world in slightly in some Overton window context closer to yours, or you have to just live with that divide. It's not something you can resolve with like a factual argument. So values, that's super important, and not just like superficial values, but like, stuff that I don't have advice for how to find this stuff out, because the thing is, especially when you're younger, your values kind of change. Or they can change, but I don't know if that's true, or if that's just because people are born kind of, or they get set in their ways. They have certain values, and those like how they see their values can be changed with fat. Oh, man, this is why open-ended stuff like this, maybe I need Jim here to rein me in. But like, I'm trying to think of a good example. I really can't. I'm struggling. I don't know, like the choice between being optimistic person or cynical person, for example. Like I'm kind of more of a cynical person, but that's kind of like, so I'm naturally skeptic. I'm naturally kind of seeing, okay, well, what's the con here? I'm also doing all that, but I'm very open to areas where like you just have to take it on faith that or you can demonstrate through evidence that like more people are good than bad in the world, for example. So how do I reconcile that? I mean, I guess it's because like when I'm presented with the circumstance individually, I'm probably gonna edit all this out of the podcast, because I'm having a hard time articulating this. I guess, yeah, common values, and however you measure that, like political, social, economic, how you view money, what you want out of houses, if you want kids or not. Like try to check as many of those things off, and then superficial things that you like. Do you guys enjoy cooking together? Do you guys enjoy exercising? Are you equally happy sitting around and playing video games and watching TV as going out into back doors? Like Ceci and I are very much a mixture of that. Like we certainly like to sit around and watch television, but if we did that our whole lives, I think we'd feel unfulfilled. So every once in a while we have to go out and have an adventure. And then where our adventure tank is full up and we're ready to veg out in front of television, video games again. I guess that's what I'm getting at. And don't also, I think on a second marriage, don't rush into it, man. Like, if it's right, and that's another value, I guess, maybe this is a value I'm assigning. Cecily never in the 5 years we were dating ever pressured me to get married. And one of those reasons is because her mom was married 7 times, and she kind of had a cynical view on marriage the way I did, from getting married way too young and then going through a very painful divorce involving, not just property and houses and money, but a child and a difference of religion. So just take it slow. Make sure that this is the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with and make this big commitment with, and get a prenuptial agreement. Because I do feel like, in this day and age, any people that talk about getting to a marriage without discussing that, and they get huffy about discussing that, I feel has an entirely wrong view of marriage and relationships and all that kind of stuff. I'm open to different ideas, and that is also maybe a value question into itself, but I don't know. So I'm gonna stop there. It's been a solid hour. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to do because I'm so far behind because of the events of yesterday. I will be back next week. I fully intend to be back next week. I have no idea what's going to go on with my granddad, and that's an evolving situation, but I intend to be back next week, and then Jim will be back the next week after that. We essentially have a very full week of Bald Move content. We got all the Walking Dead stuff. Cecily and I will be watching A Wrinkle in Time and podcasting about that. I've got multiple commissioned podcasts to release. We have a quip that's going to be going out. All kinds of fun stuff. So the Bald Move machine marches on with Jim in spirit presiding over the studio in portrait mode, if you're watching the video. And thanks for everybody's comments and well wishes of my grandfather. and I will see you on the next lunch if I don't see you any time before then.